Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of r/ProRevenge. My name's Ryan, the official host here at Reddit Voice, and I look forward to bringing you guys today's video. Before I do though, I'd just really appreciate it if you could hit that subscribe button and that notification bell to stay up to date on all the latest videos. Hippity hoppity, this is no longer your property to manage. After graduating college, my girlfriend and I moved to a new state where she was accepted into an engineering program. We found a lovely garden apartment style complex that advertised 100 megabits per second internet speed included in the price among a few other amenities. When we met the property manager, he seemed strict but well-mannered, nothing out of the ordinary until we signed the lease. The first problem: suddenly, walking into his office was not allowed without an appointment. I had to come by to ask a question, saw him browsing social media, and figured he was available, as he made himself to us when we first came by, unannounced, to view a model apartment. Nope, he refused to answer my question and asked me to make an appointment via email. The second problem: our terms of lease included an attachment to complete within 48 hours of accepting the keys that details all discrepancies within the unit. We submitted the attachment via email around the 40th hour, and the property manager responded that the terms recently changed from 48 to 24 hours, and since we had passed 24 hours, we would be held liable for all found damages. When citing our copy of the lease, which explicitly stated 48 hours, he informed us that we signed an outdated copy and would need to make an appointment to come by the office to sign a new lease. The third problem: my internet speed was not 100 megabits per second as advertised. It was less than 15 megabits off-peak and about 5 megabits on-peak. We again contacted the property manager to complain, but were referred to make an appointment. The fourth problem: we made an appointment to address the previous three problems. During this meeting, and after I finished voicing our issues, the property manager leans forward and says, "There are other communities in this neighborhood that may be more accepting of people like you and your girlfriend. You're welcome to break the lease and leave." People like you and your girlfriend. I thought he was referencing our no-nonsense response to his nonsense. Daily communication, scheduling multiple meetings to address the issues, etc. But my girlfriend believed he was speaking towards our skin colors. Her, a black woman, myself, a white man. My girlfriend jokingly told me to check my privilege before getting serious and explaining to me what they were experiencing discrimination at the very least. The solution: I did some research and discovered the property manager worked for a larger organization that owned several complexes throughout the country. I found their director of human resources on LinkedIn and made a connection. I then emailed her copies of all email correspondence, screenshots of the lease, pictures of the internet speed flags advertised by the road, and more screenshots of online speed tests. We further noted his comment and the implications behind it. The HR director replied within a few hours and promised us she would look into the issue. About 2 days later, the property manager called and asked us to come by his office at our convenience. We showed up near the end of the day and sat down across from him. He then proceeded to ask us if we would be willing to write a letter stating we accepted his apology, despite not yet offering said apology. In return, he would credit us for a month's rent, accept our damage attachment, and promise to have the ISP on site in a week to assess the internet issues. We declined. He got personal with us and revealed his job may be at stake and asked us to reconsider. My girlfriend leaned forward and said, "There are other communities in this neighborhood that may be more accepting of people like you. You're welcome to leave." The property manager was replaced in a week with a super sweet older woman who not only gave us all the things the original property manager had promised, the 1-month credit, accepting the damage attachments, and the further scheduling maintenance to fix said damages, having the ISP assess and upgrade the internet to promised speeds, but she also made it clear her office was always open for anything we need. I looked up the old property manager about a few months later on LinkedIn. Still unemployed. Give my hours away to a new hire? I'll leave you with a store to close yourself, misfiled paperwork, and get you fired. I've been lurking on here for a while and finally wanted to post this. Formatting is going to be messy on mobile, and this isn't a long one, so stick around for the juice. This happened a couple of months ago at an old employer. I worked at a supermarket in my state throughout high school, and while in college in the United States, making $9 to start and only $10.50 at the end. The store had one store manager, two assistant store managers, one manager and assistant manager per department, which there was 9 departments. For 5 years, I worked every position there, because who knew what hiring was, right? Understaffing was a regular here. So if a department needed closing and I worked, I had to close it. From stocking to register to manager duties, everything was game. My biggest acknowledgements were being a bookkeeper, out of terms of the person who keeps track of all the money, monitor, glorified cashier, basically wrangle out the regular cashiers and divvy up cash drawers to each register, service desk, cigarettes, lottery, customer bullshit, and store opener / closer. There were 5 people who knew how bookkeeping went. 2 other people besides me and 2 of the managers who ran the front end of the store. There were about 5 monitors who all needed to be trained on service desk as well. Every monitor and bookkeeper needed to know how to open the store and close it. For being a supermarket in a town with about 20,000 people, we were severely understaffed. I worked 12 to 16-hour shifts at least once a week because people would call off all the time. Keep all this in mind for later on. Backstory. I started working here at 16 years old in high school, originally as a stocking person. Quarter-hour work weeks, eventually moved up to 35-hour work weeks. Moved up to register, then monitor, then service desk, and finally bookkeeping when I turned 18. Now 21, the hours were always good, never had a week drop below 35 hours, and it all changed because of some dickhead. At the start of the pandemic, I was working while in college, so all these guidelines had to be followed. Everyone needed their toilet paper and hand sanitizer to keep it away. No biggie. On top of the guidelines, we also had been hiring a copious amount of people. The store had a history of training new hires with other people who have been working for maybe a month or so. So as you could guess, training was a disaster. But since the pandemic had the store busy all the time, we needed more people. I wanted to train people the right way because I got sick of doing other people's jobs. In March, we had gotten 4 new hires to train for my position. Now these new hires needed training on the service desk. Easy. Let them run it while I watched and helped best I could. Easiest way to get people to learn. Most of them needed training on here because there were 3 of us total, at the time, who could run it. After training everyone, 1 per shift at a time over 4 weeks, there were 7 people now ready to F up the world. But everyone knew how to run the service desk, needed training on the monitor too. Guess who had to train everyone for another position? After another 4 weeks of bullshit, everyone got trained. Around this time was the end of May. This is where the juice begins. The juice. Starting in June, we had been starting to lay off the hours since the pandemic started to slow down. Hours started to get cut from all the register people, from about 20 to 30 hours a week to 10 hours max. We got overstaffed and people started quitting left and right. Not a big deal because those positions were easy to fill, but that's when my hours started getting cut. At the time, the one new hire who started in March, who we'll call Helen, had been getting really good hours. I'm talking my hours. We had the same problem. College money, car money, the works and all. But then I got scheduled for 16 hours one week and they got scheduled for over 35 hours. Not once since I was 18 did I get less than 35 hours. So I decided to confront the assistant manager who was in charge of scheduling. We'll call him Frank. Hey Frank, I noticed my hours got cut. What's going on? I know, everyone's hours are getting cut. I have to make room for everyone, you know. I couldn't help but notice that Helen's getting quite the hours, so you made room for her and no one else? I was unaware of that. I'll get you some more hours next week. The reset of the week was kind of boring since I was a workaholic. No one called me to cover shifts or anything. The following week, I asked around to see who covered any shifts last week, and it turns out that all the new hires got called first. That kind of pisses me off, but hey, can't do anything about it now. Later that day, I checked my schedule, and what do you know? The same 16-hour week. I was livid at this point, and I should have been honored for my seniority there, not getting effed over in hours. I went back to Frank and confronted him. What the hell is this? I thought you'd been finding me hours this week. I can't live off this. Well, it turns out that I couldn't find you hours. I tried calling. Bullshit, you tried calling me. Not a single person called me. Instead, all the new hires got called. What the hell, man? There's nothing I can do. You might just have to find another job. This pissed me off beyond belief. I was ready to pop, but this is when my bright idea came into play for a couple days. I searched around for other supermarkets in my area offering jobs. After about a day of searching, I found a job paying double what I made now for the same qualifications. I gave them a ring and got an interview for the following week. The following day, I went into work for what I didn't know was my last shift, and told Frank what was happening. "Hey Frank, just wanted to let you know I took your advice." "Advice? Do you mean finding another job?" "You're fucking right. I hope you can have fun." I'll never forget the look on his face. Completely baffled, he didn't expect me to actually find another job so quickly. This is where my revenge began. After I walked out of a dickhead Frank's office, I went around doing my usual work. During every shift, a metric fuck-ton of paperwork needed to be processed in the computer in order to close the store correctly and set up bookkeeping for the next day. Fun fact, that day in particular was a SNAP day. For those who don't know what that is, that's the day the government-funded food stamps arrive on everyone's EBT card, monthly. That day, I decided to say, fuck paperwork, and just didn't do anything. I was quitting that day because my anger got the better of me. The store closes at about midnight, and I walked out of that shithole free as can be. The next day, I woke up to find some really obnoxious and angry texts from coworkers. I completely disregarded them, unknowingly that they said I worked that morning. I went down to the supermarket to grab some things for my house, and as soon as I walked in the door, every ex-coworker of mine looked at me as though I had just passed on the floor. One of them pulled me aside. Let's call them George, and this happened. "What the fuck, bro? I had to cover your shift this morning and you have the balls to walk in here after that? I don't work here anymore. Fuck off." I continued to get my groceries and talk to one of my closer ex-coworkers there and about what happened. As it turns out, Frank had no idea that the previous day was my last, and that the entire front end of the store had gotten brutally effed over. Since the store closed at midnight and no one's paperwork was filed, our corporate office called the assistant manager, also in charge of making sure all departments are closed correctly, and asked where all the paperwork was. No idea that I had not filed it, Frank had to go into the store over an hour away from him to file all the paperwork himself. Not only that, tons of violations were given to him, because since none of the paperwork had gotten done by the person closing, no one had a record of anything done at the store from the previous day. On top of everything, the amount of paperwork needed done was practically doubled since that day was SNAP. As soon as the store manager heard about this, she was livid. After about a month, I was working my new job and heard some information about Frank. Apparently, he had to go into a meeting with our corporate bosses and the store manager. He had gotten fired from his position due to all of this and not been able to get a letter of recommendation from that employer as well. Sucks to suck, huh? TLDR, manager gives my hours away to a new hire and tells me to get another job. I walked out and got him a bunch of violations and got him fired due to his stupid remarks. Post edit. For my first post, I greatly appreciate the upvotes and positive comments. I didn't think I would get 200 plus upvotes. I'll continue to try and keep up with answering comments. Keep them coming. And with that, my friends, we've reached the end of today's video. If you liked it, make sure to check out some of our other stuff and even subscribe. As always, my name's Ryan, the official host here at Reddit Voice, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video.